I think this is so timely. We have the mayor-elect, Danny Avula, with us. Like, can I tell you how I mean, this is a weird thing to say. Maybe let's just bring us all down in the first part of this. But so he and I, he and I are doing a lot of work during the COVID-19 pandemic
You
by
both
me
were?
doing,
You both were?
yeah.
Oh,
Well,
wow.
I mean, he may have done slightly more than I did, slightly. But I volunteered, which, a lot of people did at a lot of the vaccination places. And let's just say I volunteered a lot of the time, not as much as that guy, because I saw him. I was all over the place. I saw him 50, 75% of the time at different places. So like once I was at RIR and once I was at Arthur Ashe, that guy was at both
Well,
places.
I mean, Roby, he was in charge, so it makes sense.
Well, he certainly he was there. He not only was in charge, but he was present and in charge, which, sometimes people don't walk the walk. So welcome.
Thanks, Robbie. Thank you, Scott. Great to be here with you guys.
Before we get started with the really difficult restaurant questions that we're going to ask you, I do want to just make one confession. As a journalist, I'm not supposed to have any biases at all. But to that end, I want to just let you know that back in the early 80s, on a playground in the West End, I asked a girl to be my girlfriend, and she said no. And I think you know that girl.
No
I don't
way.
I don't know if you know this person. I'm holding up a picture.
Scott, that is amazing. Really?
And all these years later, my point is,
he's holding a grudge, is his point.
I'm not holding a grudge. Mary Kay was a great friend at Jackson Davis Elementary School back in the 80s, and now is your lovely bride. And
sure is. 23 years, buddy.
I'm not going to hold that against you in this interview. I'm going to come in fair and balanced.
That is wild, Scott. What a fun throwback. I love it.
I'm going to hold it against you, Scott. I mean, they've got a formidable family now. You could have stood in the way of that.
Hey, I'm not standing in the way of progress. I'm not standing in the way of progress. So this podcast, we're recording this for full transparency in the middle of December. It's going to come out in January. Right now, you are the mayor-elect, but when people hear this and see this, you will be the mayor of Richmond. What is going through your mind here just a few weeks before you get sworn in?
Yeah, I don't know that I've had much reflection time, Scott. Election day happened the very next day. I was in City Hall with Mayor Stoney starting the handoff process. His team has been incredible, and pretty much every day since then, we've been at City Hall meeting with folks, and both for our own transition team, all of the folks who stepped forward and wanted to be involved in kind of crafting action plans for a lot of the things that we heard over the course of this campaign, and then also meeting with the current City Hall team and really getting a read on what are high priorities, what are the big issues they're dealing with. So it's been real busy and really exciting too. I mean, I think the reality is that there's so many good things happening in Richmond, in City Hall, and then some things that we're going to need to kind of sharpen the focus on. But the prospect of getting in there, building the team, getting to work is really, really exciting.
I love that. Now, we are food focused over here at Eat It, Virginia. Pretty much everything I talk about during my whole day is based on snacks in Richmond, Richmond City, and all around. Obviously, probably a hot button topic for you is what's going to happen to our restaurants. Tell us, what can we look forward to?
Yeah, well, I love our restaurants. I too am more food focused than I ought to be. but the city makes it, so great to be food focused, right? I mean, there's so many great things happening, so many great options. And so, one of the things that I heard really consistently from restaurateurs, from small business owners, was a sense that they don't always feel a sense of partnership with City Hall. And so that's a big focus for me, in the practical ways of working through the business license process and trying to really diagnose what went wrong with the meals tax assessment and try to make that right for our restaurateurs. There's a lot of work to get into and multiple sides that I'm still wading through a bit, but yeah, my transition team kind of organized around 15 or 20 priorities that really emerged over the course of the campaign, and one of those was like interacting with City Hall and trying to get a business license. And again, I spoke to many restaurateurs. I held a listening session with restaurant owners and workers, and so I think like having lived in this town for 20 years and having seen just the arc that we've been on in becoming more of a foodie town, like that's part of what makes Richmond amazing. And so we've got to support that industry, and we've got to like help make sure the infrastructure is there so that restaurants feel valued and partnered and supported. And you think about particular corridors like downtown Broad Street corridor, where a lot of restaurants have like struggled and left over the years, and we've got to bring that back. We've got to find ways for them to be successful, so that we can have these like vibrant corridors of the city once again.
You mentioned being in town for 20 years. I'm curious where you grew up and what mealtime was like at your household.
Yeah, so I was born in India, but came to this country when I was very young. My family immigrated here when I was an infant. My dad was in the Navy, so we were stationed in San Diego, and then eventually made our way to the East Coast. And so most of my growing up was in Northern Virginia. Mealtime was pretty, like we would do family dinners periodically. My mom always cooked, and so even if we weren't all around the table together, like we would catch as catch can, but there was always some delicious array of Indian food on the table. And so that was a big part of life. And my family did, like, my mom really had this gift of hospitality, and largely through cooking. And so, we would often have friends and family over, and she would just spend like days in the kitchen, cooking all sorts of different like wonderful Indian food. And my mom passed when I was in medical school, and so that has not been, that's not been an ongoing part of our family's story after we lost her, which has been really sad. And I certainly didn't inherit the gifts, although my wife has been great about creating like family traditions, and also really like anchoring our family life around family dinner.
So what is mealtime like these days? Because I know you have many mouths to feed.
We sure do. We've got 5 kids, and along the way that has been, sort of expands and contracts. Like we've had foster families staying with us. We've had families living with us for long periods of time. I remember there was a season where we had this amazing family from the Congo who had come here as refugees. They lived a block and a half over from us, but for like a year and a half, any given night, we'd have an extra 3 to 5 people around the dinner table. And so I think MK's MO is always like cook in bulk, make sure there's plenty of food to go around. And so, I think our dinner table has always been a place of connection, of joy, of like really bringing not just our family, but our community together. We've lived in Churchill for 20 years. And so at lots of different times along the way, there have been a lot of extra folks around the dinner table.
You are in Churchill. That's what you just said. So you've watched that, like that entire, I don't want to call it a revitalization, because I know a lot of people that have lived in Churchill, but from a restaurant standpoint, I mean, it's gained quite a few incredible places to eat. Do you eat where you live?
We eat out a lot. I mean, they're definitely favorites that I have. I mean, obviously, Sabrosa is everybody's favorite bakery in the entire probably state of Virginia. It's amazing, and obviously the fire recently is a pretty big loss to not just our neighborhood but our entire community. I love Grisette. That's a go-to spot for us. And actually, the places that we probably most frequent in the neighborhood, I love Blue Atlas, and my wife and I do a pretty regular date night at Triple Crossing down in Fulton.
Oh gosh, you're covering the gamut there. Ben Waters over there at Blue Atlas. That's a wonderful, that whole school and everything. It looks so good. They've done a really good job.
So
And
cool.
then Donnie at
Yep.
Grisette. I mean, you just can't get away. Are you a steak frites, or do you go pate when you're there?
We definitely do the cheese board and the pate.
I'd say
But
same.
the bar is great too.
Oh, yeah, well, I mean, yeah, they do make good drinks. I try to avoid that when I'm talking to the mayor-elect, though. I don't want anybody to think
No secrets here, Roby. No secrets here.
I don't drink at all, so I don't I can't talk about the cocktails. That's really awesome. Do you know of things, being that you're secret to all of the stuff, do you have knowledge of new restaurants you might want to tell us about?
I don't. I'm not that. I mean, I'm not in the job yet. No one's given me the tea just yet. But I look forward to being in the mix. That'll be fun.
So you,
Yeah.
you mentioned some of the best spots up in Churchill. Are there other restaurants in town that have captured your heart over the years that might be with us or might have come and gone?
Yeah. Can is it okay for me to say things that aren't necessarily in the city?
Of
I feel
course
like-
they
That's
are.
up,
Yes.
that's up to
a little
you.
conflicted. I
That's up
mean,
to you.
yeah, I think both because it's been the reality of our family's life, but also because I mean, building more of a regional identity is something that I care about and will be doing a lot of. And so there are a lot of places that we do love in this. I mean, my favorite restaurant in town is Peter Chang's. And so that place is, when we have birthdays and family gatherings, like that's definitely one of the regular spots that we will show up. My wife and I have loved Heritage over the years. But there's spots that are really important to our family. So I moved to Richmond 24 years ago is when I started med school. And there was this little pho joint. It started on Broad Street, moved back behind the Home Depot, and now, like a few years ago, moved out further out Broad Street, called Fusso Number One now. And so, like my family just loves going there, and the folks that have worked there have watched our family, like literally us go from MK and I going there for date night 24 years ago to now showing up with 5 kids and have seen us at every step along the way. That feels like a special place to our family.
And I will tell you, you have been inside of the Richmond restaurant scene if you're bringing up Fusso One, because that place has moved. But there are a couple. Who is the individual that greets you there all the time, that is always there? Do you know?
His name is Bay, and he is the best. Yeah, I mean, it's funny because he has this sort of, for years, was like this curmudgeon guy, and everybody's like, why is that guy so cranky? But that dude loves our family so much, and so when we come in, he lights up. I remember a few years ago, he traveled out to Seattle for something. He brought Luke a Seattle Seahawks hat back from it, and so we've been sending him Christmas cards for years. They really are a part of the Avula family history, man.
Oh, I love that. I'm hoping that that so I feel very strongly about restaurants in Richmond as well, and I know that Scott does, and I'm hoping that everybody that's listening to this can hear how your heart is about the Richmond restaurants, because that just makes me, I'm not a Grinch, but it certainly makes my heart get bigger because I just like it when somebody shares the same thoughts on them as I do.
Yeah, well, it is. I mean, it is. I think it's what a lot of people come to Richmond and recognize. There are just these unique places with long histories and people who have just been doing cool stuff and trying new stuff. And so I get excited when new restaurants pop up, and we definitely try to make it out there. And I think, again, speaks to my heart for what I've loved about this city for over 2 decades. The restaurant scene has been a big part of my wife and I's life, our family life, and just our experience of living and loving the city.
So awesome. So awesome. It just gives me joy. Like as Scott is aware, he and I've been doing this will be our 5th year, and I get just giddy over the idea that a restaurant family, like the physical family inside the restaurant, can feel like your family, but
Yeah.
just by virtue of the fact that you are there a lot, right? It just gives me so much joy. And after the holidays, this is going to be such a great thing for everybody to listen to, because we're all like, woo, joy on the restaurants.
Has there been any difference? You said you have your favorite spots for you and your family, but since 2020, when you went from being sort of behind the scenes to being a forefront in the community, really out there every single day on TV, giving us advice and talking about what was going on in the world. Have you received different receptions at restaurants? Or people recognize your heads turning when you walk in? Is it kind of a different vibe? Are you noticing that?
It was short-lived. I mean, people's memories are short in terms. I mean, because I was probably on TV 4 days a week for probably 3 to 4 months of 2020 and then another 4 or 5 months in 2021. And so there was a time like through 21 and 22 where, I'd go to a Lowe's or I'd go to a restaurant and people would like point
That's the guy.
often. Yeah, often I would get like, "Thanks, Doc," which was just such a sweet affirmation of a pretty intense time of life. And then, we've just seen a lot of transition in Richmond, right? Like we've had so many new people moving to the city, which is super exciting. But like even as it relates to the election, I couldn't rely on that face and name recognition because we had so many people in Churchill, for example, in Northside, so many people moving from DC, from New York, from other parts of the country now that they could like live in a cool town, but be able to work remotely. And so the population has really changed over a lot in this city.
So new people, also new restaurants. Are there any restaurants that you haven't tried yet that are on your list of places to dine?
Yeah, can I give you some insider info if you need it?
I would love it, Roby. Yeah, I'm trying to think of like what's coming down the pike that I wouldn't say that like I'm like super clued into what's coming. Isn't Adara about to open up
It
their new
did.
spot?
It
They
did
did?
open
Okay.
on the 12th.
Okay.
They opened up. Yeah, and the old Mama Zoo, which I don't know if you ever.
Yeah, sure. In
Yep.
Oregon Hill, yeah.
So they are, and it's gorgeous in there. It's like a museum. It's so pretty in there. But yep, they opened on the 12th. What is their hours? Thursday through Monday. So they're open on Monday nights, which is like not a restaurant thing in the
Oh,
city. So that's
yeah.
kind of cool. So yeah, go there and see the Dotzers,
All right.
Ryan and Randy.
Yeah, we'll definitely do it. That's awesome.
Good. Or we can just break all the news right here, Scott. He can just ask me the questions and we'll break the restaurant news.
Wait, you're not the guest, Roby. Come on. You're on this thing every month. We don't, we hear a lot from you. It's fine.
No
All right.
kidding.
Probably one more thing I'm excited about, Scott, to your earlier question, just the increasing diversification of our city has brought like increasing diversification of food, right? And so I haven't made it out to Lotte World yet, but I'm pretty excited about that because I felt like there was a big hole in the Korean food scene here. And so very excited about that. And I heard some rumblings. I don't know if this is true, Roby. Maybe you can tell me that maybe Honey Pig is coming to Richmond. And I don't know if you guys have spent much time in Northern Virginia, but like, Annandale is Korean food central, and Honey Pig is one of like the stalwart Korean barbecue joints there. That would be amazing if it came here.
It is coming here. And I'm going to see if I can't tell you where based on news that I might have. Hold on one second. I'll tell you exactly where oops. I'm under embargo. I'm based on the press that I can't tell you, and you understand that, but it is coming and it is going to be here. I'll say this. It'll be out near where you like your pho.
Okay. Okay, great. Very excited about that.
So there's that. So am I. So I love that, and I think we do definitely have a little bit of a lack of some of that type of restaurant, especially here in Richmond. And then I was saying, if you haven't been to Lotte, how old are your children?
My youngest is 13.
Okay, so the bakery inside of Lotte is like, you should never let me or anybody that has any type of sweet tooth in there, because you should just give your wallet away, expect a mortgage payment, because it's so good. So good.
Awesome.
So go.
All right, we'll make it happen.
So let's say, Mr. Mayor, a very famous person comes to Richmond and asks you to show them the city and the sights and the foods and the drinks. Can you lay out a little itinerary of what you might do with this person if it was all up to you? Like it doesn't matter what this person likes. What are some of the places that you're going to take this person for food and drink?
Man, Blue Atlas really is one of my faves, like both because the food is really good, but also because, like the adaptive reuse of an old school feels very Richmond to me. You go out the back of Blue Atlas and you just see this incredible vista of the city. I mean, it's a great spot. And so And they do a really good job with all three meals. I've really loved, yeah, all of my experiences at Blue Atlas. Edo's is, just a staple place in the city. I think that's a great spot that I would take anybody coming from out of town. If they're coming from outside of Virginia and haven't had the Peter Chang's experience somewhere else, it's always funny, and I'm sure this has happened to you guys. I always, I mean, I do take a lot of my out of town guests to Peter Chang's, and they're like, "What? PF Chang's? Like that place?" so, so I always have to do a little explaining about the Peter Chang story, which is great. Um, Fanboy is a really cool bar that has opened up recently. I've been there a couple times, but it's got a really great vibe, and I think is like a lot. I think in many ways this is the sort of future of parts of Richmond, right? Like we're going to see more of this urban, just eclectic, really cool Richmond vibe emerging. And then like for a good cocktail, Jasper, right? Like that's probably my favorite cocktail spot in the city, and also a pretty cool vibe.
Do you get to jump to the head of the line for the Christmas bar when they do it there, or are you in the back and carrying like
I did wait in that line last year. We'll see what happens this go round.
All right.
I'm going to email him my very large article in Style Weekly of every Christmas bar in the city, and then you can just go to all of them before Christmas.
I love it, Roby. That sounds amazing.
You have 6 days. Can you make it? I know that you can because I saw you like every 30 seconds when in 2019. So we know that you have some way of getting around that's faster than the rest of us.
That's fun.
Again, it's fun, and I like that you are visiting our bar scene and our restaurant scene equally. That's really cool for me because I like it when somebody who's in the position that you are really shows up for the Richmond community, because I feel like food just gives so much back to everything we've got. I am appreciative that you have spent the last 30 minutes with us talking about restaurants. You probably have way better things to talk to me about food, but I love that we got to have this conversation. So thank you for being here and giving us some time.
Absolutely. Thanks so much. Thank you, Scott. Great to be with you.
Next 4 years. Be well.
All right. Take care.